Awesome.
Hey, Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Asher, thanks so much for having me.
For anyone who doesn't know you, who do you say you are?
Yeah, so I am a boy from North Georgia who came to know the Lord Jesus Christ in my late teens, and ever since then has been, to steal a line from one of my favorite writers, a beggar who's trying to show other beggars where to find bread. And through that, I've learned a lot. I don't do any of those things perfectly, but I'm up in Tennessee now and I'm still excited for Georgia football to start this weekend, though. And I'm a father of two and a proud husband, and there's a lot of other titles I could throw in there as well. But at the highest level, yeah, I think that's who I am personally.
Awesome. And since you mentioned Georgia football, I guess technically I've got to say a little something about that. I don't know. But you guys had a good game last year. Good game last year.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's true. Listen, I don't take any of that for granted. There's a lot of heartache. I have to remind my kids that it's not normal for Georgia to be this good, and
Mhm.
that they're living in the golden ages now. And it's probably all downhill from here. So just just enjoy it.
Well, I guess
Just
I didn't
enjoy it.
have to say it. You made it easy on me.
Listen, I am nothing if not a self-deprecating fan. I'm very pessimistic when it comes to my fanhood. I'm pretty
Yeah.
optimistic about most things, but I don't put too much stock in that.
Well, I mean, to that point, it's like being in Atlanta, growing up in Georgia, you kind of you learn how to be disappointed. And I guess like maybe we'll circle around back to it, but like you mentioned,
Yeah,
like well, maybe you didn't mention, but we know each other from football and
that's
growing
right.
up in Dalton. So it's like you were originally born in Dalton, like Dalton is home for you.
Yeah, yeah. I'll give the listeners just a quick background. So yes, from North Georgia originally, born and raised in the Dalton area. My parents still live in Rocky Face.
Okay.
Went to college at Mercer University down in Macon,
Nice.
and that's where I met my wife. She's from East Tennessee, and then she went to graduate school up here in the Nashville area.
Hmm.
She went to Vanderbilt. She's the brains of the operation, Asher. I'm just following her around. And then we've been in Middle Tennessee since 2010, so it's been 15 years now, which is hard to believe. We live in a town just south of Nashville called Franklin, Tennessee. It's a beautiful area. With COVID and home prices being what they are, I don't think we could afford our house anymore. So it's a good
Hmm.
thing we moved in when we did. But we've loved it up here. We've got two kids. My older child is my son Sam. He's 10. My daughter is 7. And so I'm tired, Asher. I'm tired. We have a golden retriever who's bound to bark at any point during this conversation as well.
Yeah.
But it's great, man. There's a lot of lessons learned. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that. I've actually been with the same company the whole time I've been up here in
Wow.
the Nashville area too, which is pretty wild. I realize I'm a bit of a unicorn in that way. But we've made some really great friendships up here, and I do work in technology. I'm not the most technical person,
Hmm.
but I am in the technology space, and it's been really fascinating to see how that's sort of shaped our lives, post COVID too. And yeah, still very much a big football fan, big sports fan. College football and soccer are probably my two biggest loves when it comes to sports, and they're like my other kids. I can't pick between the two of them, so I just
Gotcha.
watch them all.
That's awesome. I guess for football, did you like your parents grow up watching football? Was it kind of just like family tradition? Hey, this is what we do. You're gonna play Pee Wee, go from there, like next level, next level,
Yeah,
next level.
great question, Asher. Asher, not really. My dad's from East Tennessee, so he grew up a Vols fan. And for
Okay.
me and my brother, both my younger brother, who also played football at Dalton,
Hmm.
we kind of looked at that as our little rebellion because we were like, "Hey, we're from Georgia. We're not going to cheer for Tennessee. Why would we do that?"
I was
Right?
gonna say
Uh,
how did you guys square this puzzle here? It's like Tennessee fan moving into Georgia, and now his boys become Georgia
yes.
fans. Like, oh
It's
man.
true. It's true. Yeah. So, I mean, if that's your rebellion that your kids go through, there are a lot worse ones, more self-destructive ones probably. But I don't know. At times, I felt pretty bad. Felt pretty bad to be a Georgia fan. But we were heavily influenced. My parents were both educators, and so some of their students who we knew well were like, "Oh, you guys should be Georgia fans," and so we
Hmm.
were egged on a little bit. But it was always fun. So that Saturday every fall, when Tennessee
Mm.
played Georgia was a big deal. We actually
Yeah.
got to go to the game as a family in 2001 in Knoxville. And for any of you college football fans out there, that turned out to be the hobnail boot game where Georgia
Mm.
won with a touchdown with 5 seconds left. And that was the first time Georgia had won in Knoxville in 20 years. And
Wow.
that sealed the deal. Like whatever kind of waverings we had at that point, forget it. We were red and black from that
Yeah.
point on. And my dad couldn't believe it. He's like, I can't believe I paid to have my boys come watch Tennessee lose like this.
Oh my
So
God.
my dad didn't grow up playing football either. He grew up playing a little bit of baseball.
Mm.
He didn't have great eyesight, so he had to give that up pretty quick.
Gotcha.
But I love going to Harmon Field on Friday nights, man. That's like the most probably one of the most cliche things I could say, like as a kid from Dalton. But
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved the band. I loved the hitting and the scoring, and it was just awesome. I just thought it was so cool, and that was the only goal I ever had. And then growing up playing, I'm going to say this in the most politically correct way that I can, Asher, but I had a few extra pounds on me, when you and I first met, and
Mhm.
I think we wrestled together maybe once or for a
Yeah,
year or
we
two
we
in middle
probably
school, maybe.
did. I think that was probably my introduction to sports was wrestling. And then
Yeah,
you fast forward to today, I just started doing jujitsu just
that's
at
awesome.
in May. And then I was like, finally, I feel like outside of doing podcasting, I have something that I can be like, I'm good at this. I'm still figuring out the career thing. And then podcasting, it's like it's a nice hobby. It's coming along. But like, yeah, to your point, um, yeah, being able to start there from wrestling going into football was like neat. Like you can't play
Totally.
football or you couldn't play basketball or football in sixth grade. So then the
Right.
earliest sport I think was wrestling for most people, or
Yeah. Yeah.
for those that were interested.
Yeah. Because I think you were on the sixth grade team. You were in the
Yep.
sixth grade when I was in the eighth grade, and so I think that would have checked out. But I didn't do it in high school. My
Mm.
dad grew up really enjoying wrestling, and he
Okay.
actually to this day still helps out with the high school program in his retirement, which is really cool. And other than I would say, high school sporting events, I was actually probably going to a lot of wrestling shows. So like old like WCW shows back in the day. Like I love my brother and I both would stay up too late watching Nitro on Monday nights, and we got
Wow.
into the WWF Attitude Era and all that. So it's
I
funny
would
how
I
those
would
those
sneak
lines
and watch
are
it.
in parallel.
I never talked
Yeah.
with anybody that watched wrestling, but it's like you could always tell that everyone's like, okay, yeah, we're here, we do this at school, but every now and then somebody's like power driver or something like
Right. It's such a funny cultural sort of subtext underneath a lot of stuff, and
yeah,
references will pop out from time to time, and you'll say, "Oh, I didn't realize so and so actually knew a little bit about that." But
yeah.
all that to say, to fast forward to the football thing, I had a few extra pounds on me, so I was on the line when I was a kid,
Mm,
and I played online. And what I liked about that, especially coming from playing baseball when I was younger, is that at least I knew I was going to get hit every play, and I
mm,
embraced it. I enjoyed it. I was like, well, better to know I'm going to get hit. There's a reason I've got these pads on. I'd like to be the hammer and not the nail. So how
mm,
can I get good at that? And then I tell people all the time I played football for 8 years, never had a touchdown. I had one recovered fumble in a JV game. That's probably the only stat to my name other than the occasional holding penalty.
mm.
Right. As Stefan was talking about some of his plays, I was there for those plays, but like I'm
Yeah,
not like on the highlight. The one time I actually made it into the paper, they put the wrong person's name underneath my caption. So like, I mean, you're gonna have to take my word for it that I was
yeah.
actually on the team. But yeah, I had a blast with it. And then funny enough, when I was in college, I had the opportunity to study in Scotland for a semester.
Mm,
And I thought my football playing days were done, and they had a club team at the
mm.
university. So I played tight end for one game for a college in Scotland. And at least I got to say I played college football, and it
Yeah.
was a playoff game. So I just tell people I played in a college football playoff game, and I just let them make up the rest of the story from there.
Hey, you're what is that? Like you're the 1% going from like high school to college
That's
and then
right.
it just
Yeah,
gets
that two
thinner and thinner
percent,
and thinner.
right? That makes it.
You got a
Yeah.
game. Some people just even get on the team. They maybe ride the
Look,
bench, but you got evidence. So
every draft night.
nobody's taking that from you.
That's right. Every draft night. I'm waiting. Right. It's just a matter of time.
I mean, you like you said, like you started out a little bit on the heavier side, but now you're thin. Like you've been taking care of yourself. Like life seems to be treating you well, or at least you seem to be like kind of going with life. Like what was it about football where like you look forward to the hitting? Because for me, it's almost like I kind of would hang out with different friends or try to fit in, like moving in and being new to Dalton, like fifth grade. And then I didn't know what it was about football, but I know everybody in Dalton very much cared about it, and it was like a community thing. It's not like Texas or maybe Atlanta, South Georgia, but like everybody really gets around team sports. And some, like in football, they always have this analogy where it's like, what is it? You got to do it full speed, even if you're doing it wrong. Like you got to go full speed. You can't
Go full
be
speed.
like any mini or like one toe in, one toe out. And it's like you get hurt that way. So it's like, what was it for you that said, hey, I like this. I want to get good at it. I'm going to do that rather than like, oh crap, here's a blind pat, like somebody's blindsiding me or I'm getting pancaked. Oh, geez, not again.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. That um, that's a good question, Asher. I mean, I can recall very vividly the first day in like rec league, pee wee. Everybody's got their pads on. No grown up is paying attention, and everybody's just hitting the fool out of each other. And that was not fun. And I was like,
Mm,
okay, if this is what it feels like to get hit in pads, maybe I don't want to do this.
gotcha.
Powered through it, made it through those first couple practices. I was like, all right, when it's organized,
Mm,
it's not as crazy.
mm,
And at the high school level, being a freshman playing, against these upperclassmen who, I mean, a lot of them had just played in the state championship game that year before.
wow.
That also was not fun. But I found, to your point, there's so many great football sayings. We could spend the rest of this podcast just like throwing out the cliches and phrases from football, right? But the thing that I appreciated was effort. And I'm not a Notre Dame fan. I can't claim to love, Rudy necessarily, but what I
Mm,
love about that movie is that it teaches you that if you try really hard and if you don't give up, if you really set your mind to it and you tell the people who are in charge, this is really what I want to do and I'm serious about it, and they can
yeah.
see that in your effort, it can pay off for you. And I think that's been true even in my career as well, where there was something that piqued my interest and I wanted it, but I
Mm,
didn't have any idea how to get there. And
mm,
maybe in my day to day, I was getting hit around a lot.
right.
But even at the time, I could tell from those upperclassmen in the football context that they respected that. It
Mm,
wasn't that I was just trying hard to get the coach's attention. Like they could tell that I cared, and
right.
that's why I was trying, right? And you and I can both probably name a dozen guys who maybe only got a handful of snaps on a Friday night. But
Yeah.
like you said, it was a community thing. They cared a lot about it. And
Yeah.
even just being on the field, knowing that they had no shot. I'll never forget my senior year, I had an old lady at church come up to me and say, now, are you going to play in college? And I knew she didn't know what position I played or anything, right? It was just a sweet kind of question to ask.
Yeah.
But that wasn't even in my plan. Like I knew my career wasn't going to go past high school, right?
Mm.
Like I mean, I see like I'm sure you see it too. There's a lot of adult leagues out there now, like full pads, rec leagues.
Oh,
Man, I give those guys a lot of credit because they love the game. They love the
yeah.
game, but that looks like a surefire injury. So for me, I think Asher, it was just that if I can, and I was always on the offensive side of the ball. I tried playing some defense, and I didn't love the reaction. I didn't
Mm.
love the reactivity of being on defense. I didn't like having to wait for somebody else to do something to
Right.
determine what I was going to do next. I liked on the
Gotcha.
offensive side of the ball, knowing the play. What do I need to do to execute?
Mm.
If somebody's slid down and you got to change your block, like at least you have those contingencies planned for. Maybe it
Right.
speaks to some of my type A ness, but at least it was more predictable. And then
Yeah.
the contact was it was sort of the means to the end. And there, in spite of my size, there were still a couple of times because I was a little faster than your average lineman. I could hit somebody in unawares, and that was always fun. So
Yeah. Man,
that's how it came about.
it's like you give me a lot of things where I'm like, oh, that makes sense. It like I guess at that age, maybe I wasn't thinking like that. I mean, of course, things sound good in hindsight, but at least when you're saying it now, I can relate it back to like, oh yeah, I could see that in you because you're one of those being 2 years ahead of me. I'm like, you always look to the upperclassmen and you look for your captains and the guys that set the example. And it's like, okay, it was kind of confusing to me where it's that the way I saw Christianity or faith was like, you're supposed to be like meek or you're supposed to be like that. But I
Mhm.
never did the extra work to go look up what the meaning of meek meant. So I was kind of
Mhm.
confused. I was like, okay, we pray before we go play, but then we're like massacring each other in pads. So it's like safe, but
Right.
like we love each other. We don't want anybody to get hurt, but they're trying to take your head off. Like if you're not paying attention.
A
So
lot of contradictions. Yeah,
I'm
it
like,
feels that
what's
way.
going on here? But then like the more I've grown up and started studying things and being like, oh, okay, like wars are going on within these pages, like a lot of
Yeah.
life. It's not just like cookie cutter fairy tale, and even like understanding what fairy tales are. I'm like, oh, I didn't know all of that was in there. And I was like, geez, I've been super naive. But like being
Yeah.
able to see yourself and see like how you were seeing the world and kind of moving through the best you could to be like, okay, well, I've got this goal. Here's where I can play to my strengths and how I can move forward. That works. And then
Yeah.
I do the most of it. And at least being a lineman, it's like people maybe don't think about it. Like you said, you don't show up on the stat sheet, but they make it it's very obvious when it goes wrong. Like when we're looking at like
Yes.
college football's back, NFL's back, and you can tell the teams where it's like if you do not have a good offensive line, that quarterback, it doesn't matter how good you are. You could be Cam
That's
Newton,
right.
you could be anybody. If you don't have people protecting you, you're not going to be you can't. It's a team sport for a reason. You're
Yes.
not going
Right.
to succeed on your own. So it's
Well,
like
and
seeing that value that you guys provide and like understanding your assignment in that way, it's like, okay, that that makes sense.
you just said it. It's understanding your assignment and your place on the team, right? And you are a unit. And
Yeah.
I think back to some of those guys that I played with, and um, we, like you said, we're just sort of this faceless line. Like you're
Mhm.
just the line, right? You're
Yeah.
not like people don't really know your name or number, which I like that, right? Like
Mhm.
it was never my desire to be like the one whose name they were calling out. Maybe, and I think what I love about football too, because there are so many different positions and skills that are involved, is that there is a place for everybody and even different personality types, right?
Mhm.
Because you can be, like you said, meekness and humility sometimes get a little confused, but I think I always love it when you see a really strong, athletic, high performing athlete who doesn't really have the loudest personality, or
Yeah.
vice versa, someone who you'd think, oh man, like they're just on the line. Like I think about Warren Sapp, right? Like as a
Yeah.
defensive lineman, and he has this big personality, right? Or
Yeah.
like the Kelsey brothers these days, they're
Mhm.
in positions like tight end and offensive line. They're not like the most thought of, but when you put a little bit of personality behind it, they make their own mark on the
Right.
role,
Like the
and it sort of
Gronks
adds
and
to their
that
aura.
guy.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, but it's funny you talk about when something goes wrong, and I'm going to rag on Stefan a little bit here, but just because he was very humble on your podcast, but he was like, I mean, we all just like worshiped the ground he walked on at the time. But there was a senior year, we were playing one of our big rivals. It was on TV. You might remember
Mhm.
this game, and I got a holding call. I only got like maybe five holding calls the whole year, but I
Yeah.
got it, of course, in the big rivalry game. It pulled us back 10 yards. We were like on the 10, and now we're on the 20. I was feeling like garbage.
Mhm.
I went back and watched it, and like even the commentators like, oh yeah, it looks like Matt Suits got a little too much jersey on that one. I'm like, I think that's what they always say. That's what you always say when you go home. Too much jersey, you know. Anyway,
Hands
yeah,
inside,
forget. Yeah,
hold
that's
on
right.
tight.
Keep that. Forget the fact that the guy across from me's probably got a good 75 pounds on me. What I didn't tell your listeners was I didn't gain any more weight after
Mhm.
like the ninth grade. So like I pretty much stayed the same, and I was just an undersized lineman my whole career. But um, the next play, Stefan, we run a reverse to Stefan. He scores a touchdown. So I like,
Mhm.
and it was the reverse to the right. So as
Yeah.
the right guard, I'm the only person other than Stefan Rains who's running to the right.
Yeah.
Everybody else is going left. So what I love about that highlight is that Stefan, I've got like a 10-yard head start on Stefan, and he still
Mhm.
smokes me to the end zone. Like it's not even close. But I'm the first person there to like greet him, right? It's like it was fun. Like, dude, Stefan got to have that moment in the end zone. And that was the only touchdown of the whole game. So I like to think that without my holding call, it never
It
would have
might not have
happened,
happened. Right.
right?
Right. That's a
But
good point.
it's a good life lesson, right?
Yeah. But something that was interesting about that, we kind of laughed about the fact that when spoke with Stefan, is like it was fun. It was fun to win, and it was fun to see like, hey, the offense is clicking, like line is on. Like, and for me, I think maybe I played JV. I had like one JV touchdown, and like the rest of the time I was a scout team. And it's like I was proud to be a scout team member because like, hey,
Yeah.
we're giving looks for this. But then at some point I kind of got a little, I don't know if bitter about it was the thing, but maybe different people in my ear. And I was like, okay, I think I understand my role, but I think our
Mm,
coach Thompson, was very good about kind of, and I think good leaders, good coaches are good about seeing what's in you and trying to pull that out, trying to be like, hey, you're not here to just like coast by. You're not here to be mediocre. So like raise your standard. And it was fun to see us work together as a unit when it was like, hey, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing that. And it's like, okay, hey, you're here. Sweet 16, Elite Eight, it's fun. But then on the other
Yeah.
side of that, when, like you said, there's the one touchdown, and then maybe the rest of the game is like, oh, they're all over us. And it's like, oh,
Stuff. Yeah.
okay. When they say there's levels to this thing, it's, yeah, they're not kidding. I was like, I wasn't thinking this was going to go any worse, but it's like, well, okay, this is the last game. And then once you guys graduate and go, it's like, oh crap, we're it now. And like
You're up.
you're
Yeah.
trying to fill those shoes, and they always tell you like, you got big shoes to fill, and you're like, all right, all right.
Yeah.
And then now we're kind of adults where you, you like face some imposter syndrome, but then after a while it's like, yeah, you're filling the big shoes, but then it's like you kind of like feel your own body, like you said, like you're one
Hmm.
size in ninth grade, but then as you're growing up, you're like, oh, I'm an adult now. Like
Right.
you kind of feel like you got giraffe legs, but then it's like, oh, okay, like I'm actually in my body and it doesn't feel awkward. Or it's like if something's off, I can like fine tune it and know like, oh, this is what I need to go do just to go work on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that progression to just maybe sort of to bring it back to some leadership lessons or life lessons too, Asher, is uh, for me, I didn't feel like I was really myself, like
Mm.
really my like I don't want to get into like self-discovery or anything, but it probably wasn't until college where I really
Mm,
felt sort of comfortable in my own skin, where I was like,
gotcha.
okay, because you get into a scenario, and this happens whether you go to college or not. You go
Yeah.
to the working world, or they don't know who your ninth grade homeroom teacher was. Doesn't matter, right?
Mm,
You are who you choose to be in that moment,
yeah.
and I think that takes a lot of faith to do that. And because then really nobody's watching. You could be anybody, right? You could go the
Right.
other direction. You could be buck wild, right? Because
Mm,
nobody knows who you are. Uh, but uh, the best leaders identify those strengths in you. Like, Coach Thompson, that's a great call out. And they put you in the positions that are going to help you be the most successful, whatever that is. If it's in the current position, or if it's in this, current role, great.
mm,
But if they say, hey, look, it may not work out for you here, right?
yeah.
We just had, we got some guys coming up who are great, who are progressing faster than you are. And that's not a judgment on you. It's just saying that, as scripture tells us, there's one body with many parts,
Mm,
and you might be an elbow and not an ear, right?
mm,
It's a different place, but it's so hard for us to try to discern that on our own.
yeah.
And it really helps to have leaders and people who you can count on who point you in that right direction, right? There's certainly been times in, I mean, just to draw it back to the football example, folks like, Suits, you might ought to go practice with the receivers today, right? And I was like, I don't know the first thing about running a route. I didn't know what a route was until I was in college, probably. I didn't know what it meant.
Mm,
I'd never seen a route tree before. Didn't like totally blew my mind. All I knew was blocking assignments.
mm,
But if that was going to be the case, and if I wanted to play, then I had to do other things to show that I might be comfortable being a backup, with
right.
the exception of a couple of plays, and that's fine, right? As long as you're okay with that and your leadership is aware of that and knows what you're after. It'd be different if I was showing up to practice every day, being like, "All right, coach, I can't wait to go D1," and I'm like, "All right, well, here's your workout plan, and I'll see you in a couple months because you're going to need to add like 50 pounds of muscle," right?
Mm,
And that was never something that, it wasn't meant to be, and that's not what I wanted for myself. And I think that's where we all have to, like you said, as adults, and as we go through those challenges, we have to figure out where we fit in the best. And
mm,
it helps to have counselors around you who you can ask that question to.
gotcha. Could I ask you a two-part question about like um kind of becoming yourself? I know you said you didn't want
Mm.
to go there, but maybe we just take like a
Hey,
small
we got some
detour
time.
of like um which is easier? Like when did you know you were kind of, this is who I am, versus like when you knew like you weren't quite sure you were about yourself, or like what was it that was maybe like pulling you one way or another? Like what helped you make the
Yeah.
switch? That, I think that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of that is going to be very personal and different for different people. For
Mm,
me, what I realized I was holding on to too much, Asher, was the judgments that I thought other people had of me, or
mm,
the expectations that I thought they had of me.
gotcha.
I thought it was funny. Senior year, my senior superlative was most ambitious, and
Mm,
I was like, do I give off a vibe that like I'm trying to like move up, or like that I'm trying to be somebody that I'm not? I'd never really considered myself ambitious. I always thought I was competitive, but maybe not
yeah.
ambitious. And and so that moment whenever I started feeling like I was coming into my own, I realized, it's probably more about me letting go of those other things, making fun of myself a little bit, laughing at myself a little bit, not
Yeah.
taking myself too seriously,
Right.
and then being more open to the observations that people had who didn't know me, who
Mhm.
didn't know me from when I was in the first grade. I mean, like you said, Dalton is a small community. I feel the same way with my kids, by the way, who they've been with the same group of kids. My son's in the fourth grade now. He's been with the same friends since kindergarten,
Yeah.
and he loves that. And there's a good and there's a pro and a con to that, right?
Yeah.
The good is that, yeah, he's got his tight group of buddies. They're thick as thieves. They're playing football together. They're doing sports together. That's great. The flip side is like he's going to grow up with his identity kind of shared into what they think of him. And
Mm.
there's going to come a break to that at some point,
Right.
inevitably in life. But I want to make sure he's comfortable enough in his own skin so that if he is ever picked out of a situation and dropped,
Hmm.
that he's going to have the self-confidence enough to be okay with that and not to find his approval in his peers.
Right.
There was a lot of talk, especially when you and I were growing up, about self-esteem. Like, hey, you got
Yeah.
to have, like, self-esteem was like the cure for cancer, right? Like, everybody, if you had high self-esteem, you could do anything. You were going to be a first president, astronaut, Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm looking more is a confidence, and there's a fine line between confidence and cockiness, right? We don't
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
necessarily be braggadocious in that way, but I think just being confident in who God's made us to be and what our strengths are and what they're not, and not feeling like we have to take on somebody else's strengths of our own.
Hmm.
Using our friend Stefan as an example, if I was ever going to be I was never going to be as fast as Stefan Rains, but uh, if I wanted to be his teammate, there were certain things I could do, right?
Mm.
Or if I wanted to, if we wanted to hang out about and talk about other things, that's where our our circles would overlap a little bit. The Venn
Right.
diagram
Right.
overlaps, and the same thing applies, I think, professionally. Having been at the same company for 15 years, I've rotated roles kind of every 3 years or so, 3 or 4 years.
Hmm.
Sounds like, in your own career, it's been something kind of similar. I think it's very rare that you have someone do exactly the same job their entire career.
Hmm.
Don't get me wrong. You got coal miners, you got teachers, you got sort of these career paths where folks find a role and they want to stay in it for a while.
Right.
Absolutely nothing wrong in that. But I would wager that those folks also change in different ways
Right.
personally, right? And what they know about themselves. So it's a long-winded answer to your question, but I think it's just about understanding what about you God has made different from other
Hmm.
people a little bit. And then also having a close group of friends and counselors and mentors who can see those things in you and say, hey, you know what? I don't know if anybody's ever told you this, but you're pretty good at this. Kind of
Hmm.
like you said about Coach Thompson and the receiver room, right? Like if you're out here, like you can do this
Yeah.
if you work a little harder, or if you practice a little bit more, or if
Right.
if you're a little sharper on these plays. That is invaluable, right? Like that is worth its weight in gold. My wife and I, we have a great marriage. I'm so thankful for. And you know how it is, like with somebody that you're really close to, you can tell them something 1,000 times, and then a
Hmm.
stranger who they've never met will tell them exactly the same thing, and it totally resonates. And you're like, I've been saying, it's that closeness, right? If we
Yeah.
tell it to ourselves, or if it's someone you're like, yeah, you're just saying that to be nice. You're just saying that because you like me. You're just saying that because you know me. That
Right.
goes back to those same presuppositions or prejudices, or that I was putting on myself as a young person, that as
Hmm.
an adult I just really need to let go of and be like, hey, that's just all in your head, right? That was
Right.
just all you creating a narrative of yourself that you didn't really need to hold on to.
Yeah. I, I think that's a beautiful answer because it really speaks to what I've kind of navigated through to where I can be like in a space of speaking to you on a podcast in a more comfortable form to where before it was difficult expressing because sometimes it's like you don't want to say the wrong thing and you're kind of like measuring yourself and judging up against like, hey, if I do this, they do that. If I do this, they do that. So it's like you're constantly playing chess and checkers and you're trying to make the right moves and like try to please people. It's I guess that's the thing. You like
That's
go
it.
from trying to make friends, get along with people, and then you kind of grow up and you grow out of it to be like, hey, I'm gonna be who I'm gonna be and I'm gonna attract the people I'm gonna attract. If I don't attract anybody, I'm okay being on my own, but at least I'm not gonna be creating like disaster and disorder. And
Yes.
then it's like I'm contributing to the world and I can answer the question of like, what is my purpose? Who am I serving? And then with that, it kind of gives you the get up and go in the daily. And like in the times that you feel low, it's like a season and it's not forever. And thankfully, if you have people in your life that's family, people that you've
Hmm.
made friends or called like your new family, might not be your blood family, but then it's like those things kind of help you get through like the peaks and valleys of things. So I think you taking the time to express that, I really appreciate it because it like I had like a self development, personal development stint because it's like growing up as a preacher's kid, there's a certain standard you have to keep. And then when you go off to college, like you said, you get pulled out of your environment and put somewhere else. It's like, okay, you start having to ask yourself actual questions without constantly being told, hey, this is the answer, this is the answer, this is the answer.
Right.
And it's like, I'm grateful that my parents gave us that freedom in a way. At the time, I was just thinking, oh, well, we just value God and education. That's it. But it's like, okay, well, they tell me to go to school, but they're not forcing me to say, here is what you're going to study. So,
Hmm.
like, nobody else in my family did engineering. So I got to choose that. And then when I got to choose it, the moment somebody came and tried to be like, oh, I knew this, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. I'm like, I appreciate it, but this is my thing. Like, you had your thing, like, you got your room to play in, I've got my room to play in. Like, we can meet in the sandbox sometimes, but like, let's not let's not complain to everything. Everything that doesn't have to be about you. And it's like it's funny because like when you think someone's quiet or they're reserved or like
Hmm.
different labels that get placed on you, and it's like, okay, is that what I want to be? Or I spoke with Ali Awad, and this will come out a little bit before your episode, but it's like speaking with people you grew up with now as adults, it's like, okay, this is how we're seeing media, this is how things are being consumed. Like when you spoke about like
Hmm.
the game in 2001, I'm thinking I was 2001, I was in 6th grade and just made the
Yeah.
transition from going from Cleveland, Tennessee to Dalton, Georgia, and then
Yeah.
going from all 5th grade City Park to now you're in the middle school, brand new middle school. And
That's
it's
right.
like none of those things were in my mind. Like I wasn't clear on who Michael Jordan was. I didn't know that they had the 6 games back to back. Like 97, I just got in the country and it was like
Yeah.
there's a lot of things going on. Like I know Green Bay was a thing. I guess Brett Favre was still going on at that time, but
All the
just like
90s
it's just like
cultural zeitgeist. Yeah.
so many things. But now having the beauty of like YouTube and
Yeah.
documentaries, it's like, oh, you can go back and see like a whole docu-series. But like last reference, and then I'll turn it back over to you. Like
That's great.
a big thing during the early 2000s up to 2007 was like Lance Armstrong. But then now
Yeah.
seeing how that turned out, and it's
He
like,
came to Dalton. Do you remember that? Do you remember when Lance Armstrong came to Dalton?
no, when was that? Oh,
That was,
when?
I think it was 2006.
I think I
Because
do
me and a few
remember
other
that.
seniors, we skipped school that day to go watch him because they had the tour to Georgia, right? And
Oh,
this was
that's
before all of
right.
his news broke.
Yeah,
And yeah, they did a leg in Dalton,
gotcha.
and he was in it. Saul Raisin was a local Dalton cyclist at the
Hmm.
time. He's retired from cycling since, but yeah, but Lance Armstrong was there. So to your
Yeah,
point, it's like that's such a touchstone in our
right.
memory. But if you're coming, like you say, coming from out of the country, or like that's the
But
only thing
yeah,
about cycling that I could probably tell you, right? Is that right there?
right. But I mean, it's like you bring that up, and the only way I was introduced to cycling or learning about Lance Armstrong was like through doing landscaping, and then my boss, like the first person that I worked for, Mr. Jaggedage, it was he like we would watch cycling sometimes because it's always Tour de France in July, and
That's right.
just hearing the commentary, the same guys that did it back then when I was maybe like early teens, it's the same guys that are doing it now. And it was like the way they presented it. And maybe that's the thing that got me about podcasting or just like radio, where it's like
Yeah.
when you hear someone communicate a story so well and
Mm,
they have that passion, and it goes back to the thing that you said, it's like, you know, your assignment and you know what it is. And now watching things like UFC and hearing
yeah.
the commentary and seeing like the little side shows that people do. And it's like, oh, this is broadcasting. And then they
Mm,
have a cadence with which they have to communicate. And I'm like, that's why it's so neat. You have this guy
yeah.
that's got like the English British accent, but he speaks French fluently. So like his enunciation, I'm like, okay, French is my first language. That's what I
Yeah.
resonate with. So that kind of like warms me up. And then when you have the
Yeah.
American, they have this nice contrast. Like you hear the strong
Hmm.
American accent, you hear the British accent. It's like it goes back and forth, the red and blue, the rivalry. But it's
That's
like
right.
just those touch points where it's like, okay, I might not know exactly this, but like it's cool where our stories overlap, and then I get to learn something from you and get to share a little bit from my end. And it's like, oh wow, like we had a piece of history. Lance Armstrong
Yeah.
came to Dalton, Georgia. Despite everything else
That's
that's
right.
happened, it's like,
In spite of
hey,
everything.
that was
Yeah.
a moment in time.
And I think that's one of the things that I'm trying to teach my kids to when whether they're playing sports or they're working on an assignment or whatever, is you're never really in anything alone,
Mm,
right? You're not in anything alone. Um, all of those, like thinking about Ali, being on your show, and like our paths crossed for a little while,
mm.
and your and my path crossed for a little while, and
I'm sure you like
just
know his brothers because it's like everyone, and
yes,
that's the thing that kind of
we
helps
did
with
mock
some.
trial together. Actually, that was another
Mm,
thing that I did. Yeah, was with Ibrahim, right?
yeah,
And and uh, I think part of that's community in general. And I think what's changed probably from the time you and I were growing up to now is I would argue the world is probably a little more transient. It's definitely more quote unquote online. So it's
mm,
harder to build those touchdowns, but you nailed it earlier. It's finding that community. And it's not just community for community's sake. It's not just saying, oh, we all like red bicycles, so we all hang
yeah,
out. And that's only going to get you so far, right? It's got to be about things that really matter.
right,
It's not bad if and that's why I love talking about sports, but I'm always hesitant to like make it my identity, right? It's like,
yeah,
oh, there's
yeah,
Matt, the sports guy, right? Like that's not, there's so much more to all of us, right? But if
yeah,
you're not careful and you don't take time, like you said, to do a little bit of that self-development, it's
mm,
so easy to skate by and you lose years, you lose decades if you're not careful. And I think that's something that we all have to be cognizant of is just how quickly, I mean, gosh, having two kids, they're each like their own little time warp. They just each time it's like on a VCR when you used to push fast forward and you push it again and it goes
mm,
like double. That's the way I feel. I have one kid that pushed the fast forward and then we push it again.
yeah,
And sometimes that can make me a little sad, right? Because I'm thinking about just how quickly time's moving. And but I'm loving the opportunity to take opportunities like this and to reconnect with folks and
yeah,
to see how life has moved us and how God's moved us in different directions, but how ultimately we can pick up a conversation really quickly and we can
yeah,
find common ground on things. We can discuss different things, but we're not doing it alone. I think that's
yeah,
the point. I think that loneliness epidemic that's been, gallons of ink have been spilled about recently. It's very true, but if and it doesn't mean you have to be the most extroverted person either, but it just
right,
means that you've got to recognize at some point, if I'm going to try to go this alone, it's going to be really, really hard and lonely.
yeah,
um, and just making some friends, finding some community. I mean, obviously, a community of faith I think is really big, but that's what's going to lead you to other avenues and other interesting things that you never thought you would have done as well, through those other people. Because yeah, I wouldn't have. There's plenty of things that I've done that I wouldn't have done if I didn't have a friend who's like, hey, let's go do this, right? Or let's
yeah,
try this out, or let's go backpacking overnight. Like I'm not really outdoorsy, right? But like, let's go.
right,
All right, we'll do it. Let's go camping.
yeah.
Those types of things are important.
What's funny about that is I think to myself, one of my best friends, I probably would have never met her if I didn't after work go out to meet some friends where they're like, hey, don't just stay inside, come out. And it's like, okay, hey, we hang out here. And then they're like, okay, hey, let's go next door. There's a party or something going on over there. And it's like, yeah, it's not really my scene. It's like, okay, fine. Well, at least talk to two girls before you leave. And it's like she always laughs that it's like she was my social experiment. And I was like, initially I kept like, no, no, no. And it's like, okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, you make a good point. And then that's like the comfortability of it where it's you you look so much to fit in, and then to your point of having the communities of faith, something that I kind of had to separate from, because on the one hand, when you have your friends group, they're like, it's your social circle, you have the same people in homeroom, like you, because you're basically classified by your name. So
That's right.
like
Yeah.
you have like the same people in fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, like you just see the
Super
same people,
arbitrary, just
and
like
it
you're the last name.
right. And
Yeah.
it's like if you can tell like, okay, things either went well, and by graduation time it's like we lost some and then we gained some, and it's like, okay, hey,
Hmm.
we're all back, like, and then you wish each other we're on off to college. But then
Yeah.
in college, like you meet again similar groups of friends, but then you have the opportunity of either some people I noticed they went to school with some of the same friends where it's like, hey, we're
Mhm.
going to the same colleges, then they become roommates together, and it's like, like you said, that either ties your identity and that's like what you
Hmm.
stick to, or you kind of broaden your horizons. And it was like,
Yeah.
for me, it was getting into frisbee, or engineering was a new group. And then from there, it was like, okay, you have intramural sports. And
Yeah.
then, of course, it's a smaller school, but there's the racquetball thing. So you play, and it's like, hey, people seem nice here. This person plays. Hey, you play pretty good. Hey, what do you do? And it's like, oh, we're not
That's right.
playing sports anymore. But then it's like those little things. You meet a stranger in your class. They ask the question. They ask the professor a question. If it sounds interesting, it's like, hey, do you mind if I study with you? And then you just keep kind of going along and tagging along.
Yeah.
But I said all that to say that on the faith front, I found it um, a little bit more difficult, or maybe
Mm,
I maybe it wasn't more difficult, or I was less willing to be more discerning, or it's like I just
mm,
went with it because it's like they said, God said. And it's like, yes, but
mm,
you still have to use your head. And it's
mm,
not like just a dogmatic of like, since they said it from a position of authority, I've got to go with it. But then that's where
mm,
like the bad things happen, because it's like you're not vigilant, you're not paying attention.
mm,
Like, oh, I went there, the pastor had a good message. No, I don't want to go there. They don't do this. And it's like, uh, it might be on me to start doing my homework. I guess I
mm,
actually got to read the Bible. My parents
mm.
aren't
Right.
forcing me to do it anymore. My mom might ask, like, hey, did you read this? Did you read that? It's like, yeah, 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 yeah. And it's like, nah, I didn't read it.
Yeah.
And it's like I can tell where my life is like, okay, I'm having a good time, good time, good time. And things are going bad, 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 bad. Okay, okay, let me read my Bible. Things are good, 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 good. Oh crap,
Mm,
this bad, 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 bad. And it just keeps going back and forth. But recently, in trying to make more of an effort of that, of just like, okay, hey, I get to choose how I want to learn, because I don't have to follow the class rubric anymore, but I can give
mm,
myself a rubric. And then if it's not working the same way it worked in school, where for some reason I still have all of my college notebooks, I'm like, at some point I can either throw them away or just keep them for like artifacts. But at least I'm not going to feel bad about, hey, it's summertime, you got to go put in extra hours for the
yeah.
summer. It's like, maybe I don't have to, I don't have to carry that burden or that load anymore.
You just crystallized the thought that was percolating earlier for me, Asher, which is I wish someone had told me when I was like, I don't know, when I was in the eighth grade that YouTube was going to be a thing,
Mm,
because I had such bad FOMO, right? Like I did, if I was watching Sports Center and I missed a highlight, I wanted to watch it again
yeah.
because I was going to miss the big play or whatever that everybody was going to be talking about. Or and nowadays the fact that everything is so archived, I know the digital world catches a bad rap, but that
Mm,
is one of the things that I like about it, is that everything is pretty much searchable and findable.
mm,
I bet if I went on to Chat GPT and I was like, "Hey, what position did Asher Chua play for the Dalton County?" It could probably tell me because it's going to be able to search all of the internet at once, right?
yeah.
Um, and and I think that there's a fear that goes along with that, because again, it goes back to acceptance. We're all just trying to be accepted. We're
Mm,
trying to find that one thing that makes us extra special, that people want to hang on to, and they want to come back and talk to us more about it, and they want to invite us to all the things, and we want to have them at all the things, and that is exhausting. It's just 100% exhausting, and it sets up an unrealistic expectation that's
mm,
going to burn you out after a while. It's just you're always chasing the next thing or the next interest. And I think you and I can probably think of some people in our lives who are sort of serial hobbyists. Like they'll try one thing, and if that doesn't work out, well, let's jump to something else. And
yeah.
I have the same box of college notebooks, probably some high school ones too. And I'm like, I haven't looked at them in years, and I've really tried to adopt that. You remember when like Marie Kondo was really popular on Netflix? She had this whole like organizational show, and one of her
Mm,
big things was like, if it doesn't bring you joy, just get rid of it.
mm.
Well,
That's a good
I
point.
to a degree, yeah. I mean, some of those things bring me joy, but again, we're talking about things bringing joy, which is a whole other concept.
Right, right.
But the point is, like, it's also temporal, right? And things that really matter are going to be the relationships you poured into, the people who you helped. You know, like you reached out to me, we messaged really quickly, and now we're talking. Right? It wasn't like
Yeah.
this. Hang on, Asher, let me run this through like my 20 different criteria. It's people who you can trust, right? Before you just say, "Hey, this is important, and I know it's important." And that comes with some scrapes and bruises along the way, because when
Yeah.
you're younger, I see it with my son right now. Everything feels really important to him. He doesn't want to miss a birthday party. He doesn't want to miss a game.
Yeah.
But I think there's some wisdom in realizing that, hey man, there's some things outside of your control that you're not going to be able to do.
Yeah.
You're not gonna, and I'm actually really, he's like, for example, just as a quick example for the listeners here, but he's never played baseball. He's always been really athletic. I actually taught him how to hit left-handed when he was 2 years old, just to like as a trick. That was my social experiment. Like, could I get my right-handed son to bat left? And he does. He's got no interest in it though, and I've always kind of thought like, dang, I feel like he'd be kind of decent if
Yeah.
he just wanted to do it, but he doesn't feel that call to it. He just
Yeah.
doesn't. So I'm not going to force it because if I did, square peg, round hole, fish out of water, pick your metaphor.
Yeah.
But for him, he's happier not doing it,
Yeah.
and he doesn't need that to be fulfilled. Even though he's got plenty of buddies who play, he
Mhm.
doesn't feel that need to do it just because they're doing it. And I'm trying to encourage that in him to say, all right, listen, if this isn't something, he's playing football right now at flag football. If he doesn't want to play flag football next season, that's fine. We need to do something else. We need to keep our bodies active.
Yeah.
But if it's not that, then you're probably feeling a call to something else. Let's figure out what that is. And I think that's what God tries to do, is tries to lead us into things. Sometimes it's a gentle pull, sometimes it's more of a tug, but we have to be open to that. Like you said, you had to be open to going out with your friends, right? You had to be
Yeah.
open to like trying something new, and even if you fail at it, like I've been playing, like every you know middle class person I think around me, I've tried pickleball recently, so I've
Mhm.
picked up pickleball a little bit. I'm not the best. I know there are some 70-year-old ladies who could probably whoop me at pickleball right now,
Mhm.
but also like it's good exercise. I enjoy it. I'm gonna find the things that do bring me joy in it for a reason that
Yeah.
God's put into my heart. But I'm also not gonna try to become state champion pickleballer, right? Like
Right.
I'll probably hurt myself if I did that. So,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't be worth the time. So,
Yeah. That's a good point. Like finding those things where it's like, okay, I can do this to have it add value to my life, but not stress myself so much to where it's like the value kind of it tips over. I guess it's that like tipping point thing where it's like, okay, where
mhm.
is it? It's still useful, and then it's just it's
And then being
diminishing
willing to let it
returns.
go,
Right,
right? Like
right.
when it tips over, just be like, hey, that was good for a while, but like I don't have to hold on to that because
Yeah,
yeah, before you know it, you're hanging on to everything, and
that's true.
it's not sustainable. And I would say too, Asher, just as an encouragement as well, I've noticed that with so I'm a deacon at our church actually up here, and um, I had to go talk to our leadership one day because I just felt like my plate was overloaded.
Mhm.
It's not that I was overworking necessarily everything, but just all the responsibilities were starting to add up, and I had to ask for some sabbatical time, and that was like one of the hardest things I feel like I've had to do in my adult life was to just go and say, hey, I need to step away for a little bit
Yeah,
because we're not really raised to be quitters,
right.
and to me that felt like quitting. I
Yeah,
felt like, hey, you said you were going to do this thing, and now you're backing off from it. But what I think we find those moments when we're really honest and when we gotten ourselves to that point, it's not just dropping anything at the drop of a hat, right? Or backing out the second something gets hard.
yeah,
But when we try it and we feel that drain, that's probably a sense of, I mean, it might be the Holy Spirit, it might be, something just pulling you out of that moment to say, hey, this isn't the right place for you right now.
mm,
But now, after that sabbatical time, in my case, come back more energized. You come back more. I mean, there's all kinds of studies about runners who have, I mean, you ran track. If you take a break just for a minute
yeah.
and then you start running again, just how much further you can go as opposed to trying to power through, right?
Right, right.
I think Franklin Covey talks about sharpening the saw. If you take a second, or Stephen Covey, excuse me, if you stop and you sharpen your saw, it's going to be that much more productive than if you just try to power through it.
Right,
And
right.
that's anyway, it's really important to do, but it seems counterproductive in the moment.
Yeah. That that's very true. And if anything, it feels like I don't know if I'm learning the same lesson year after year, but when it kind of clicks, or like you said earlier, when it crystallizes, it's like, okay, I can sit back, enjoy it, and just be like, this makes sense. Like I
Yeah.
don't have to go write like a big old thing about it because every time I used to be, and I guess I still have my moments where it's like, I got to capture all this. And it's like, I've got notebooks and notebooks of things filled, but then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, some things are worth written down, other things are worth being heard, and then other things are
Mhm.
just like being left alone. Like I guess that's why the gambler is
Yeah.
like the old classic. You got to know when to hold them, fold them, and walk away and run. And it's like, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's a fun song, it's a live song, and then it's multifaceted, and it's nice being able to have those things that you can point to as markers to be like, okay, this is where I need to be. And
Yeah.
even as I was saying, knowing when to sit back, like being able to sit back and be like, oh yeah, I can move the mic because I've got it on the arm and it's not like before where I had to hold it. And kind of remembering like, oh, we're winding down. I can
Hmm.
slow myself down. I know how I
Yeah.
was a couple hours ago, and people would be like, "What's wrong with this guy?" And it's like, "Hey, we have our moments, and being able to have that moment and move from there to where it's like I'm not agonizing about it. We dealt with it, and we moved on, and
That's right.
then now it's like I still get to be present. Like I can look forward to things and be like, "Oh, this is like January 2026, whatever the date is on the calendar that I saved it to." But it's like I'm gonna enjoy this day. Like
That's right.
August is still here. It's still nice out. I can still go for a bike ride, or I think I might just enjoy my bed and just
Yeah.
lay in it and be like, this is a beautiful moment because I get to rest. And
Yeah.
never before have I understood that concept of where the story comes from and actually understanding what faith means to me and being like, oh, like I didn't understand that, like actually reading the Bible and being like, okay, in it's like this might not be like groundbreaking to anyone, but like if you read a book like any other book, like usually how the story starts has something to say about what's coming. But
Mm,
in being introduced to faith, a lot of people jump to, hey, you're bad. You're a
mm,
bad person. Here's what's wrong with you. Here's why you need help. And it's like,
mm,
that's not how the story starts.
mm.
So
Yeah.
it's like kind of getting that newsflash where it's like, wait a minute. So the thing that's been keeping me on my P's and Q's is just the threat. So it's like you gotta fear
Mm,
God, fear God, fear God. And it's like, I don't know if I want to fear God, where it's like I'm always scared. So it's like, how would I
mm,
approach someone or something that I can't see? And then I gotta make things concrete in a way to where only what I can prove is what I can approach. And I don't want to
mm,
be a scared little boy, a scared little girl where it's like you're
mm.
constantly scaring me. And then if the
Right.
only thing to control me is fear, I don't want that.
Right.
But actually taking the time to read a story and then reading it with context and then reading it with help and then reading it with different lenses and just being like, oh, okay, like this person's intentions are different. They're not
Hmm.
teaching me to control me. They're not teaching me to take
Mm,
something from me. They're
right.
actually giving me something.
Mm,
And it's on me to do something with that. They're not going to
mm,
continue to harass me, cuss at me, name call me. They're not going to play this like sign language game where it's like tit for tat, this or that. And it's like,
mm.
okay, that's actually a relationship you can get
Yeah.
behind. And like being able to see that as an adult is something that just feels freeing, and being able to share that with you, like seeing where we come from, having a similar faith, and then also kind of being able to circle back to it without beating people over the head or saying like, hey, you've got to do this. It's like, no, this is just something you and I have in common
Mm,
that we can feel comfortable sharing with each other without telling anybody this is what you have to do. It's like, no, this
mm,
is a conversation between two people. And
mm,
like for me, it's like I appreciate this because this is what I can describe as like a friendship where it's like
mhm,
maybe it's not something where it's, hey, we knew each other since like 1 year old, 2 year old, and it's like we've
mhm,
never been separated at the hip. But it's like, no, we grew up, played a similar sport, spent time around each other, almost forgot that
mhm.
we wrestled together, where it's like things just kind
Yeah.
of like lead together and you completely forget. But then to come back moments later, have a moment and then leave it,
Mhm,
even if it's like
mhm,
nothing else would come of it, it's like, hey, that happened.
mhm.
It was something wonderful. And it's like, I just, I'm grateful for that. So it's like, I say all
Yeah.
that to say thank you for taking this time to really share your life with me and just reconnect, man. This was really,
Yeah.
really nice.
Appreciate it, Asher. Yeah, man. Likewise. I think I couldn't sum it up better than you just did. And I'm really glad you reached out and that we had a chance to reconnect and spend some time together today.
For sure. And I'll try my best to circle back around, but if I don't, it's not personal. I might just be just who knows.
Hey,
We could
hey,
just
listen,
we're
I
having
don't,
life moments.
hey, listen. Yeah, like I said, the life's on warp speed at the moment. And if folks listen to this in January and, Georgia's about to win another national championship,
Oh,
great.
here we
I can't wait.
here we go.
We can come back and talk about that.
All right, deal.
All right.
How can
Thanks so
people get
much,
in?
Asher. Oh, yeah.
You're welcome. How can people get in touch with you if they want to know what you do and or kind of just like
Yeah.
check out your work? We'll
Yeah.
have to talk next time about technology if you want to
Oh gosh,
share
yeah,
about
yeah,
how you
lots to
got
talk
into it.
about that. Lots to talk about that. Might have to put some disclaimers out there. But no, yeah, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Folks want to find me. I guess that's my most ambitious side of me, but it's also part of the job. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Matt Toots out there, and I do still have a Facebook out there. So if you shoot me a DM, I'm more than happy to respond, as Asher knows. But yeah, those are probably the easiest ways. I tried to get rid of a lot of social media post
Yeah,
COVID. It was taking up too much time, but I held on to those two.
yeah. Don't blame you. I don't blame you. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And one question I'd like to ask you to close out. I thought to ask you a variation of the first question, but let me see if I can do this right. How have you come to find the people that you serve?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think I used to think I really had to go find them, and then and I think I had to think more about what God says about loving our neighbor
Mm,
and how our neighbor is not some we don't choose our neighbors,
mm,
right? And that has taken a lot of weight off of me, Asher, and it's helped me realize that God's going to make it pretty apparent who He wants me to serve, whether that's physically in my neighborhood, in my community, with my coworkers, some of whom are on the other side of the world, right?
mm.
Like those are all people who I want to serve and who I care about. So I think that would be my answer to that question is, I want to find people who are looking for a relationship and looking for something below the surface a little bit, but I can't exactly choose who all those people are. So
Gotcha. Well, you handled that beautifully. I kind of made it up there on the spot, but it has been percolating a little bit. But
there
thank
you
you
go.
for
Perfect.
rolling with the punches with me.
You got it. Absolutely, Asher. Great to
Well,
catch up.
likewise. Until next time.